2.
2.
1.5.
1 3/4.
5.
Hello, ladies
Just
and
kidding.
gentlemen, and welcome back to another exciting episode of Inside Movies Galore, where we are going to hand the mic off to our good friend Crow here, because this just so happens to be a pick that was chosen from one of his choices. So, and it was the luck of the draw because we really got the hand dealt of the Star Wars trilogy this month. Why don't you tell us which Star Wars movie we got to watch for this
Well,
week?
we just covered episode 4, New Hope, as most people know it as now. And now we are covering The Empire Strikes Back, the second movie in the Star Wars saga, also known as episode 5. And for any people that are confused, shame on you, go watch more Star Wars. But anyways, we're covering Empire Strikes Back, and we're going to do things a little bit different. Instead of a play, we're going to briefly go over the movie, and then we're going to get more discussion from everybody here about their thoughts and their feelings on the movie in general, on the cast, and on scenes. So hope you're going to enjoy the change up a little bit, and let's start. So Brandon, is this your first time watching The Empire Strikes Back?
And I never heard of this Star Wars. What's this? I know.
Isn't it Star Trek?
I've seen this many times at some. I know you were talking about this off air, but it's very similar to my experiences. Though I've seen it about as many times as the others. I mean, I grew up watching it on TV. Growing up when they would run them in syndication.
Now, did you see this second, or did you see this first? Because a few people last week saw this first.
You know, I don't know which one I saw first because I saw them so young. I could have seen any one of them first, to tell you the truth. If you want to know, my first mention of Star Wars was when I watched Muppet Babies as a kid.
I loved
those.
I was a young adult when I watched those and still loved them.
But I remember watching this and not liking it because, what happens at the end and all of that. And I felt it dragged a little for me as a kid. But as an adult, I appreciate it. I understand why people like it the most. It is not my favorite, but I'd say it's my second favorite of the trilogy. I used to really love A New Hope, but it's kind of fallen down a little bit. My love, I still like it, but I don't like it as much as this one.
I found Luke more annoying in the first one than I ever have my entire life this last time watching it, so I hear you.
But a good film. I thought it was well done. I really liked Lando as a character, and I was glad. And his introduction is awesome.
Yeah.
So in general, I think it was a great film. It
just comes in so majestically with his long purple cape, and coming in, acting all like he wants to kill Han, and then he laughs, and it's so Lando. I mean, it's definitely him. So grandiose.
And I did enjoy the I used to love I had a lot of Star Wars figures when I was a kid, so I really enjoyed playing with those. And I think there's only one of them I saw in theaters when it came out, and I was very, very young. And this was not it. I was alive when it came out, but I was not at that point where if I was in theaters, I was too young to remember it. But it was still enjoyable. I'm not a huge Star Wars fan. I'm not like over the top, but I do enjoy it, and I do find the series entertaining. So it's worth a rewatch. And I've been rewatching because I've been watching the Lucas recut ones for a while, so I decided to just break out for the last week. For instance, of course, I had no voice, so I couldn't say anything. I'm still recovering today. I had broken out my little bootleg copy of the unedited versions, and sadly, I've learned I like these better than the ones that Lucas redid so far. They feel grittier, they feel more real, and they have a lot less forced humor in it because they stuck a number of jokes into the Lucas redo of this that they did not have in the original cut, which I thought was weird. But hey, still enjoyable either way you watch it. I didn't watch it in 4K, but some people might have because they just released the 4Ks not long ago.
I have in 4K, but yeah, I agree. I'd like to get a VCR in the original tapes and just to watch them again because they definitely have a different feel to the movies. Definitely grittier, less shiny and new, and as much as I do like the additions, like I've said. It's nice to see the originals and how they were because it's. I mean, there's not necessarily a different movie, but it is a little bit of a different take on the same movie.
Release the Darth Vader butthole cut. That's my last word.
Okay, so before we move on, since you weren't here last week and we're doing the trilogy, just tell us real quick about your first thoughts on the original movie, New Hope.
Well, it was my favorite for a long time as a kid. I really liked it because it was fun. I love the Mos Eisley scene. I still like the Mos Eisley scene. Watching it unedited, it was great to see Han actually shoot first because I thought it was more in character of him.
Yeah.
And in general, I just overall will find it a fun, competently done movie that even today I enjoy. Just not as good as I enjoyed as a kid. I think maybe it's because it was so kid friendly that maybe that's why I don't like it as much as an adult, and I liked it best as a kid.
For the original trilogy, I was always Return of the Jedi, New Hope, and Empires, but yeah. So okay, so is that you done with that? Your assessment on the movies?
Yep.
Okay, let's move on to Jacob. Is this your first time watching Empire Strikes Back?
No, it is not. It may be my first time watching this version. Again, I'm watching the really nice Blu-ray complete saga collection that they did with the first 6 films. Where famously they had gone in and done a whole bunch of mucking with the prints. I could not swear to how much was different. I do know the scene with Vader and the Emperor was redone, and I don't know if this is my first time seeing the redone version. I don't think it is. But they had recut it with Ian McDiarmid doing the Emperor role, but he didn't originally,
Really?
So I know that was different. Other than that, there weren't as many of those moments as I noticed with the first film. There were still some parts where the CG seemed kind of like, okay, it looks like there's some ham-fisted changes here.
Well, I know that Star Destroyer with the blue lighting in the background, that was not in the original Empire Strikes Back that I remember.
Okay.
The one that kept floating in the background.
Actually, there was. I don't know if they had as many cuts, but the Super Star Destroyer did first appear in Empire.
Okay.
Okay.
Because I had a lunchbox, an Empire lunchbox at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And it was between Empire and Jedi that I had it, and it was the Super Star Destroyer was debuted in that movie.
Of course, this was supposed to be the first in-canon appearance of Boba Fett, and it was the first appearance of Lando, so...
No, the first real one was in the Star Wars Christmas special.
Ha!
And that
Well,
animated short,
Actually,
the animated short is canon.
Anyway, I talked last week about how this was my first introduction to Star Wars, and it put me off for several years because, again, that whole scene of him cutting open the creature and shoving Luke inside. Now, it does raise the question that I'm still a little unclear about was, did Han crawl up in there too? I mean,
he set up a shelter.
What's that?
Yeah.
He set up a shelter.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, obviously he wasn't injured. It was easier for him to maintain his health and body temperature, but still, it looked like it was pretty freaking cold. So it's like, but one thing that did occur to me though, and again, as far as first impressions, it is hard to give a first impression for this movie. I talked about this a little bit last week, but this morning I had the thought of you could have one of the possibly just about the deadliest drinking game you could think of with this movie, the series generally. Basically, you can watch them, and every time you hear a line or see a scene or whatever that you've heard quoted or referenced in another movie or video, or
you'd be drunk 20% through the movie.
You take a shot, you probably make it through 5 minutes if you're lucky. But anyway, just a thought, because there's so many lines, and as they pointed out last week, the one where Dave took the name from his other channel, I saw that and it gave me a little smile. It is a fun movie. I can't think about, and this is one of those references I was talking about, I can't really think about this trilogy anymore without thinking about the debate about it in Clerks. And honestly, I agree with Dante's assessment of this film. It ends on such a downer, and in a way, after the incredibly corny ender of A New Hope, I kind of do like how this one ends with the Empire not necessarily winning, but definitely not defeated.
I like the ending shot where it just shows Luke and Leia, like half hugging with their arms together, and they're looking out at the space. It's a really awesome shot of the ending. It just shows you there's more to come.
Of course, this movie also gives us some fun Luke and Leia moments where I was like, wow.
And they're not kissing or anything, brothers and sisters.
I was going to say, they're going to have some awkward memories. The family reunion might be a little awkward. But anyway, yeah.
My sister, didn't I kiss you one time?
It's like that moment when Marty McFly wakes up in his and
his mother's in his pants.
You're my ma.
Yeah. But it's a fun movie. It's good. I am becoming comfortable with the idea that maybe one of the reasons I was a little about it before is because really, frankly, it is rough. It is a little, the bad CG and the occasionally wooden acting and the occasionally painful dialogue, and the fact that it does borrow so heavily from other things that came before. There's a lot here that keeps them from being great films in my mind. But it also helps make them fun movies, and I've become much more open to films just being fun than I used to be, I guess you could say. So I can see the appeal in a way that I couldn't say when I was in college. And that's part of the thing. I was introduced to this in high school / after that first negative reaction that put me off for years. When I finally came back to the series, it was in high school and college. So I was a little more cynical and I was looking for quality more than, so I think that's one of the reasons why I've always been ambivalent. But as I get older, I like the show a little more. I just really wish Lucas would just leave them. Say, okay,
Quit fucking with them.
done with these. I'm just going to sit back and count my money for the rest of my life. And I'm waiting for someone like Arrow or Criterion to do a complete collection where we have the original prints and the updated ones, because that would be awesome.
We need to have like every version of Star Wars original trilogy ever made from start to finish.
Actually, I could see them doing the trilogy on Criterion, because the mouse has started to one finger moved on its stranglehold on its films with Criterion with Wally, so maybe. You never know.
I could see them doing like a short-term release. I don't think Criterion would be able to put it into full production the way they prefer to, but they could probably do at least a limited release.
Yeah. So you're done, Jacob?
Yeah, I'm done.
Okay. Moving along over to Tammy. Tammy, was this your first time watching Empire Strikes Back?
No, actually, my first time, I mentioned before, I figured out I was 8 years old, because that's when it first came out. I saw it with my great grandma, and she said, we're never going to something like this again.
Wait a minute. Not to interrupt you. It came out in 80.
Yeah, in 1980, I was 8 years old.
Okay. Oh, never mind. I was thinking of Return. Never mind. Go ahead.
Forgot how to do math?
No, I was thinking of Return. I was thinking I was 10, but that was Return of the Jedi. So, yeah, I was just thinking of the wrong movie.
So, anyways, yeah, I did not realize when I saw it, though, that it wasn't the first movie, because, of course, I was 8 years old. I didn't realize that there was another one before it, because the one before it, I was only 5 years old when it came out. So, didn't realize that. But I liked it. As a kid, I know I liked it. I've liked it since being a kid. I like all the I guess I just like everything in it. I like the for the most part. I mean, there's some things that I wish, hey, I wish that didn't happen or that didn't happen. Well, we'll get there. But yeah, I like the characters. I like the action in it. I like, the story, except for, like most people, didn't really care for the ending. But other than that, it was fun. And I've enjoyed watching it.
Even though you were trying to remember that the voice of Yoda was Fozzie Bear?
No, I was trying not to remember that, because I don't like Fozzie Bear. I don't like Fozzie Bear. He's annoying.
What? Waka waka waka.
Yeah, waka waka walk you.
Fozzie's great. He's not the best Muppet, but he's great.
Fozzie's annoying.
No way. He tells jokes and everything.
You can't buy Fozzie as a Jedi Master?
I can.
Now, Gonzo, maybe.
Now, why did the chicken cross the road?
Because his pants were on the other side. Waka waka waka.
I'll give you waka waka waka.
Are you done, Tammy?
Yeah, I suppose for now.
Alrighty. And moving on to you, Dave. Dave, was this your first time watching The Empire Strikes Back?
No, it definitely was not. And I actually remember before having a copy of the movie, I remember having a copy of the soundtrack on vinyl of Empire Strikes Back. Had gotten it from a friend, and for the longest time, whenever my dad came towards me, I would play it. But yeah, Empire Strikes Back is interesting because you get more of the dialogue of Princess Leia and Han Solo, like going back and forth, and like. And they're literally trying to like piss each other off, like in the very beginning, and then suddenly, like in the end of the movie, it's like they're all lovey-dovey. I love you, I know, So
It's kind of like the two furballs we have sitting here. Let's see how much we can piss each other off.
regardless, I have some issues with like how fast those two like kind of like came together, but
You're crazy.
Supposedly they'd been on the run for months at the time, because, or at least a month at the time, and in the palace and all that stuff. So they've had time. Not
I agree with
ton.
that, but I have a little bit.
I feel like
I'll
they
mention
had
it
like a
my
little
turn.
bit of cabin fever with each other in the very beginning of the film. Like they were sick of each other's presence, or vice versa, because they were pretty hot and heavy in the very beginning. But that being said, I also think that C-3PO, on the same hand, got a little bit more abusive in this film to R2-D2. Verbally, at least.
I think he got still way more abused in this film than he had been before.
Yeah.
Even when he was right, he was being abused.
But that being said, I do think that this film is a strong film in the Star Wars universe, because you get the other side actually somewhat winning. So I'm not sure when I actually saw the film, but I do enjoy watching the film. I get a kick out of how we get the first time we see Yoda, and how much his voice reminds me of Fozzie and all that jazz. And he's kind of a punk to Luke, like when he first shows up,
Well, Luke, to be fair, Luke is
ravaging through his stuff.
Luke is a punk to him too.
True that, but you kind of don't know what he is until he actually reveals himself, But
yeah, he was all fun and games, but he was testing Luke. He was testing Luke on patience. So that was the first thing. He's rummaging through his stuff, so he's testing his patience, which he failed. Luke failed on every single level with Yoda. That's why first thing he said when he revealed himself is, "I can't teach him." He knew that he was going to teach him, because at this point they believe that Luke is the last hope. I mean, in other stories we learned that there were other Jedi, but maybe not as powerful. This is the line of Anakin directly, and he's going to be the best chance to defeat Vader. And so he knows he wants to teach him, but I think he says that to make Luke realize that he needs to unlearn everything he's learned, basically, before he even said that he needs to open his mind and stop just reacting to things, because he got annoyed with Yoda the first thing. And Yoda was in my opinion, Yoda was intentionally having fun at Luke's expense and R2's to test Luke, and Luke failed.
And I think this is the first movie where we actually hear R2's cute little screech, when he gets flung from the swamp, and he does that, wow, But I get a kick out of this movie specifically because you see Luke starting to grow into his power, and I get an enjoyment out of the film for that. For that.
He's
So,
definitely less whiny. Still low.
Yeah. Luke is way. I think it's more towards that Mark Hamill just kind of grew up more. I mean, he was in that.
So he had that accident, right?
Car accident
which
that
helped for
could
his
have
growth.
ended his life. So I think it just became. It actually made him a better actor, and he was way. He was still, he was a little whiny, but not anywhere near as bad. He was just more naive to how the world works with Yoda than he was in the original film. In my opinion. So, is that you done with that, Dave?
Yeah, I think I'm pretty much done. I enjoyed the film, so.
Yeah. All right. So now, as I had mentioned previously, I have seen all 3 original films in the theaters when they originally came out. I was 4 when the original came out, and I remember sitting in the theater watching it. I was 7 when Empire Strikes Back. I remember my little brain being blown by the big reveal in this movie. At that point, I was young and didn't really understand the scope of what I learned, and I was still, my mind was blown. Years go by, it's still like it's I think it's like one of the biggest reveals in movie history. Like everybody was just like, what? Just pure and utter shock at it, and it was hidden secret to everybody, including the actors. Mark Hamill, it was the only one, besides George, that knew of the reveal, including the voice of Darth Vader. James L. Jones didn't even know. He even said to George, "You should have told me. I could have delivered it better." But I think he delivered the line perfectly in the way George wanted to, because he wanted it to be somewhat of a surprise to him when he read it too. So, or a big surprise, So, I now my growing up, I like I said, this wasn't my favorite because of the ending, but I still loved it. And of course, we got introduced to Yoda, and Yoda rules, and he was awesome. So there's definitely aspects in this movie that are just absolutely phenomenal. And I always loved the movie. Just when I was younger, I just hated the ending. With the bad guys winning. So I learned to appreciate the movie way more as I got a little older. But yeah, it's as a 7-year-old, I still loved it. I loved Yoda. I loved everything about it. I loved Luke using the Force to get his lightsaber to chop the arm off of the Wamper and escape, and the joke of the of Han saying that the Wampa smelled bad on the outside, and everything. But yeah, so I just loved watching it, and like I said, I couldn't say the exact number of times I've seen this movie. I just know it's a little bit less than the other 2. New Hope's the most, then Return, and then this. But it's still a lot, definitely over 20 times. So yeah, I love the franchise. I'm a super fan, and this one, I don't feel there's any corniness in this movie at all. I don't, and the CGI I think was absolutely incredible for its time, and was way, even though the original was good, this was even beyond the original, but because a lot more money got poured into this one, because George Lucas had made money, so he poured his own money into this one, whereas he didn't really have as much to pour into the first one. He had some. I mean, he had done some movies, so he wasn't like broke, but he definitely wasn't. Hadn't made a ton of money yet until after New Hope. So it was definitely this was a lot more polished in CGI than the original was, and that's in the original screening, not the polished versions we see now. So yeah, and as far as Leia and Hannah, I just want to mention this because you did, Dave. I feel like they even from the beginning, even though she was kind of an ungrateful biatch, and but you could see the chemistry. I could see the chemistry between the two, and a lot of times you meet someone in real life, and sometimes that will happen. You won't like each other, or you just get on each other's nerves, and you become best friends, or you become lovers, or whatever. I mean, one of my best friends, we didn't like each other at all in junior high, and then in high school we became best friends, and we still talk to this day. So, it definitely can start out in the opposite way, that of not liking each other, and I think they have always had chemistry. So, seeing them, her saying "I love you" and then him saying "I know," and he's saying "I love you too," and it's totally makes sense to me that their love story. I mean, if you watch the whole movie, it's there. It's just it's a lot. It's more subtle, and it's more you got to cut through the chase. It's like that old couple that been married for 60 years, and all they do is complain about each other and say about each other, but they're still together. They still love there. So that's an amazing thing. So I mean, yes, they haven't been, hand and Leia haven't been together that long, but they're starting out that way. But you can see the strong connection between the two of them without it being said or even shown in the beginning. At least I can. So just wanted to point my point of view on that. So with that being said, let's go into the movie, and of course,
We got Dustin here.
oh, I'm sorry, I did not see Dustin pop in. Dustin, you why don't you tell us? Is this your first time watching The Empire Strikes Back?
Of course not. It's kind of funny because I watch a lot of movie reaction videos, and there are a shocking number of people that are clearly in their 20s who claim they have never seen this movie before, and most of the time I really don't believe them, to be honest. Because it's like, this movie is unavoidable. Like, how can you not have seen it and you're an adult? Like, I don't think that's really possible.
It's weird, but it's true.
On the other hand, I mean, I suppose it is old enough at this point that you would kind of have to seek it out a little bit more. Like, maybe, cable isn't very popular anymore. Like, a lot of people have to seek out what they watch. Like, you have to pick it from a menu rather than just having it be presented to you. So, I mean, maybe that's why, but of course, I saw this when I was, I don't know, 4 or 5, maybe. It's very hard to remember precisely. I do, the best I can do is, my dad used to, I think I mentioned in our Star Wars talk that my dad used to tape things he would rent from video stores. And I first saw Star Wars and The Empire Strikes Back to back on the same tape that Dad made. I remember he didn't get Return of the Jedi, so we had to rent Return of the Jedi each time I wanted to watch it. And I ended up getting the Return of the Jedi video game for the Super Nintendo, and just playing through the game whenever I wanted to watch Star Wars. But that's a conversation for another time, I suppose. But anyway, so this movie's great. It's probably in terms of filmmaking and storytelling, the best done Star Wars movie. When I was younger, I didn't quite understand what people would mean when they would say that. Now that I'm older and I understand more about filmmaking and storytelling, I see what they're talking about. It's a very tight story. It has a lot of high drama. It has a lot of pretty good humor. Some of it a little dark with the execution of the officers thing. It really kind of contains it all. And I struggle to think of something that I would change in Empire Strikes Back. Like, it's just so solid and almost a miracle of filmmaking in that it went so well and has like no downsides. I mean, I think a couple of reviewers I watched said that they thought it was slow, and it's like, this movie moves along at like breakneck speed. What could you possibly cut? Like, good lord. So,
Yeah, if anything, it almost moves a little too fast.
yeah, like and again, this is something I've seen well over 100 times. Like, I didn't even bother to rewatch it this time. Like, I just watched a reaction because it's like, yep, I know this scene by scene. Occasionally, I get the order slightly wrong, but I know this movie very well. And
Well, at least in this movie, we get to see that R2 can stand on his tippy toes.
So, also apologies if I have background noise. Somebody is standing in the alley in front of my window and just screaming, and I don't know why. I looked out there at first, and they are just like sitting on the street, like screaming, like they don't seem to be injured or anything. It's bizarre, but you probably hear it in my background, so I figured I should probably explain that. But anyway, so I was going to make the joke that I've fought the Battle of Hoth hundreds of times. I used to be really into Star Wars video games. Probably up until 2015 or so, when Star Wars was destroyed and ceased to exist. So I have kind of a history with the events of this movie, just because the Battle of Hoth is like a really common thing that they like to put in video games. And so I think I almost know that, like, I think I almost enjoy that less than the rest of the movie, because it's something I've kind of personally done a lot of times. Like, when the Battlefront games came out, like, I replayed that mission so much, like, as for both sides. And on the Super NES Star Wars games that I also just played the bejesus out of, I think those were two separate missions. It was like, you were in the snowspeeder and you had to shoot AT-STs, and then when you cleared that level, you had to shoot AT-ATs. Well, you had to actually trip them, and it was very difficult to do with the Super NES's controller. But yeah, damn, I love this movie. It's so good. And also important to note, it was largely untouched by the really ridiculous, like, super special feature edits. Like, they did change the graphic of the Emperor to be something cleaner, which I think is probably fine. So.
Yeah, because I think they put some side views in of the Emperor that weren't there before. Almost, at least.
Well, what they did was the original. I still remember the original cut before the special editions came out, and he was basically just like he was almost like pixel art. Like, he was very shoddy. And what they did when they were filming Revenge of the Sith was they filmed they reshot that footage with him in his Revenge of the Sith costume, and then put that over like the pixel art. So I don't know how many people really remember that. Like, that's one of those things that did in the 2004 edition that I think is fine.
Well, as it was pointed out earlier before you got on, the actor wasn't even the same actor. In the original Empire Strikes Back, they didn't have him in that role.
Yeah, apparently Ian McDiarmid played the role in every film except Empire, and so they just edited him back in. Apparently, he and James Earl Jones recut all the dialogue for the scene as well.
Are you done with your impression there, Dustin?
Well, there is one. I don't think I've read the novelization of this, but I'm trying to figure out how to word it. So, in the Super NES game, like Super Empire Strikes Back, to make it into like a game of length. They do like expand some scenes and some moments. Like to find Yoda, you have to travel through quite a lot of the swamp and fight a very large monster. And so I think I may have gotten the game before I saw the movie, or at least was like old enough to comprehend the movie. So there were some times during some of my early viewings of this where I was like, "Where's the swamp monster?" And we see a little bit of it, like that thing that swallows R2.
Yeah, I seem to remember like bits and pieces.
That was a dragon snake that swallowed R2, and I think it was a swamp slug in the video game. Because one of my favorite Star Wars things that I own or have ever owned is a what's that noise? Book of it's kind of like a Sand County Almanac, but for Star Wars creatures. Like it has really nice sketches and illustrations of the creatures from the different movies and film and books, with like illustrations of them and like little blurbs about like their ecology and behavior. And the section on Dagobah is really big because there's a lot of creatures on Dagobah, and all the expanded universe stuff that I've read that includes Dagobah like introduces it as like it's a really hostile place with a lot of really cool creatures that today I think they probably would have clogged the screen with, but I like that they keep it subtle in Empire with just the dragon snake, which is that black thing that swallows R2. So, yep, it's me.
Well, they also had lots of regular snakes and lizards, which I was like, that's kind of interesting. It's like an alien planet with all these reptiles.
Yeah, I seem to remember a little bit more of a monster a thing going on there with R2 myself in the original. So when they cleaned it up and it was just this like fish-looking thing going into the water, it was like, okay. But in any case, is that pretty much your viewpoint then, Dustin?
Yeah, I mean, I have only positive things to say about this. I think maybe when I was younger, I didn't appreciate the romance subplot as much. But it's kind of one of my favorite parts of the movie now, especially because like watching movie reactions, people flip the fuck out at that kiss, like in the Falcon. Like I was watching one girl who like was reacting to the movie for the first time, and she was like, "Oh, are they gonna kiss? Are they gonna kiss? Are they gonna kiss?" Ah! Like it always gets people going. It's pretty fun.
Okay. Did you want to bring us into the plot line then, Kroll?
Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. So we start out with the scroll and the music, and I just want to. Does anybody have anything to say about the scroll or the starting music for this before we go any further?
Well, it's the opening theme for Star Wars. It's so iconic right now. I have even people who claim they've never seen the movie before have heard the music from at some point.
Oh yeah. And actually, one point I did want to make, I'll go ahead and throw it out now. That opening fanfare is iconic, and this is one of the probably in terms of like a main theme. This is definitely one of the best films. I would say I'd probably put it in probably top 10, definitely top 15. But this is the film that introduces us to the Imperial March. And I'd say that's more like a top 3 in terms of original music for a film that is not the main theme. That's a damn good piece of music.
Yeah, I know plenty of people that use that as a ringtone for mothers-in-laws, sometimes their wife,
work.
People like that, and it's pretty funny. Pretty damn funny. I think so. So yeah, I agree. And to me, whenever I hear the beginning music and when we watch that scroll, I'm that kid again watching it for the first time, and I get so excited that the movie, and it puts me right into that mood and right into that imagination of watching the movie again. No matter how old I get, I know how many times I've seen the movie, it just puts me right back there again, and I love it. You know, the scroll is just so iconic and awesome. Um, and we have the scroll, and then we start, and we learn that although the Death Star was destroyed, the Empire wasn't, and they're really out for the rebellion now. I mean, they destroyed that big toy, so they're chasing them down, and they've cornered on this planet Hoth, where Luke Skywalker is a commander there, and our favorite heroes are there. So we start on Hoth, and they basically they're out there and they're checking on life forms, and it's a frozen wasteland. They're on these creatures called tauntauns. Um, they're roaming around trying to see what's around, and they're gonna head back. But Luke sees an asteroid, and he's like, "I'm gonna check that out first." So and he's like, "All right." So he starts heading up by himself. He goes back. Later, he finds out that Luke never returned, and he goes back out to look for him. Because that he knows he could be hurt or whatever, doesn't know what happened to him. And of course, he doesn't find him that night. He ends up finding him that night, but they end up being locked out and then found in the morning. And so, what do you guys think about these the opening scenes here, and what's going on in the beginning here?
Well, again, that sequence of Mark Hamill nearly freezing, and then Han finds him and stuffs him inside that creature, which had also keeled over from the cold.
The tauntaun.
Yeah, that sequence put me off of this for years. I just did not care for it. Then when I went back to it, I was like, it's okay. But maybe this is because I've always had a little bit of a tongue-in-cheek look at this. That creature that attacks him, I can't remember what it's called offhand. Is anyone else reminded of the old Rankin Bass Rudolph special with that scene with the Bumble?
It's the abominable. That's what attacked him.
I don't know why, but I just always think of that.
It's an abominable snowman or a yeti, if you really want to get technical here, right. But But I believe that Kroll had a name for it. He called it a
Wampa.
A wampa.
You didn't know that?
No, I didn't know
Come
that.
on, you can't be the only super nerd here that knows all this stuff.
Yeah, you're the only super nerd who knows Star Wars here. So
okay. I mean, Wampa, I thought was.
Although I think Dustin would have known it too.
I thought Wampa was like general knowledge, like in super nerd level.
It might be. I'm some of the terms I know, but
I'm sure you knew every single creature in here. Like you probably knew what the name of the creature was in the asteroid about that they flew out.
I do not, but I need to look that up now that you've. I don't know, so I need to know.
I know is that I don't know.
Well, knowing is half the battle.
But I need to say one thing real quick here. What's the eternal temperature of a tauntaun?
Don't know.
Lukewarm.
Waka waka.
I personally love the scene where my favorite scene of the whole sequence, the beginning there, is Luke. He's hanging upside down by the Wampa. You're like, oh no, Luke's gonna get eaten up, and he just closes his eyes and he calls lightsaber to him. And this, of course, is after not having much official training, just a little bit from old Ben on the ship, and I'm sure he practiced a lot by himself. But he was able to call the lightsaber to him, and once he got the lightsaber, break himself free and chop the arm off of the Whomper. And Star Wars loves to chop off limbs, arms and hands, arms of the enemies and hands of the heroes. So he chops off the arm, escapes, and then him almost freezing to death is like, wow. And of course he's going into he's kind of like seeing things, and he sees Ben, and Ben tells him to go to Dagobah and Yoda, and he's like fevered and doesn't even know if it's real, but it sticks in his head. And we kind of move forward. Darth Vader, they show up to surprise them. They're kind of a little early because the idiot George thought that it was better to pop in and surprise them, but they gave the rebellion enough time to put up shields and stuff. Vader kills the guy, puts someone else in charge, just like Vader would do. Everyone is scrambling to get out. They realize
in fairness, that commander was an idiot and an asshole and deserved to die.
Oh, I agree, but even if if they work for the Empire, they're an asshole and deserve to die, in my opinion. So.
Hey, the ladder to the top in the Empire is very quick, but you die at the top. So,
yeah. I was thinking like when the first guy in the first movie, when he gets promoted, he must be thinking, "Oh fuck, now I'm dead." But Pia actually lived to see he died on the Death Star, so it wasn't Vader that killed him. At least he survived Vader. But so we. They go down to the planet. They're trying to get the ships to escape. They realize they got to send 2 at a time. They just can't risk anymore. They have to get them gone. Whether they can't keep them around, but giving them some kind of chance is better than just letting them get killed. Let's let them get shot down. So they start doing that. Leia's staying behind. Han's like, no, you're not staying. Like, I'm going to get you to your ship. And like, you can't do any more good here anyways. You may as well. She runs with him. They end up getting blocked off. She can't go to her ship. So he says he comes in. He's going to get her off on the Millennium Falcon in more ways than one. Giggity. Just kidding. They start running the opposite way. Poor R3PO can't keep up. They grab him. Say, "Come on, go." They go to the Falcon. They go inside. The hand yells, "Come on! You're going to be a permanent part of this scrap metal." And he finally gets on the ship. They take off. He's trying to say something the whole time. Of course, he's shut up and told to shut. And they try to go to hyperspace, and he's like, "Oh crap, we're not going to hyperspace. What's going on?" Then they finally gets words in and says, "Oh, the hyperspace thing has been damaged. They can't go to hyperspace." Oh crap! So now Han's has to figure out something else, and he ends up going straight into the asteroid field, where Leia's like, "You're not going into the asteroid field, are you? Well, they'd be crazy to follow us."
I do find it interesting in this movie, and that was the one thing that stuck out to me as far as I remember ever watching the film, even the first time I've ever watched it, was, man, I really want to see the Millennium Falcon go to light speed, and you never get to see it until the end.
Right.
They keep doing all the build up, and then
Wait, that's supposed right? I was thinking the same thing. I mean,
one thing that
just fun running gag, though, right?
Yeah. Well, more of a stalling gag, but I was amused on IMDb. It says this. I haven't seen the original cut in so long. You guys that watched it can tell me. But IMDb said that one of the asteroids is a potato, and apparently one of them's a shoe. But they apparently fixed that later on. So I wonder y'all's take on that.
I don't think I remember seeing that.
I remember the potato. I do not know about the shoe.
Supposedly, one of the crew got really ticked off and ended up throwing a shoe, and it was in the shot. But I don't know. That might just be one of those myths that.
See, that's Hardware Wars, different movie.
Yeah. Um, so yeah. And also, I want to mention one more thing that Leia said. That was pretty funny too. When we first get on the ship and it's not moving, he has to punch it like Fonzie, hitting the jukebox, and she goes, without I get out and push, because old cars would do that. You'd have to actually push the car. And then, of course, he comes back, I don't know, it might, so, a little banter between them is hilarious. And they brought it into the real world, kind of. Anyone who had old cars in the 70s and 80s know these cars that you had to actually push them to get them going sometimes. So, like they did in Karate Kid. But anyways, so they enter the astral fields. A few TIE fighters follow because, they're more afraid of the Empire than they are of dying from asteroids. So, they know they have to follow. Immediately one gets destroyed. There's only a couple left. The big ships obviously aren't going to come through the asteroid fields. It's not going to happen.
Quick comment on that. When the Star Destroyers do try to enter the asteroid field, did anybody catch that when the different admirals are on like the little hollow screen, like having the conference, having like the meeting with Darth Vader? One of them's like, ah, and then like disappears. Like right when it shows the Star Destroyers trying to go into the field, and one of them takes like a big asteroid like to the bridge in a big explosion.
Right, yeah, I do remember that. Yeah.
And one guy's like, ah, and then like the signal is lost, and it's like that guy just died, and nobody acknowledges it, and nobody like notices. It's
the Empire.
Anybody say that they saw that too?
It's the Empire. They don't really care who dies, when, where, why, how.
Yeah, it's just like it's almost like a hidden gag.
No reaction whatsoever.
A whole ship dies with thousands of people aboard and no reaction at all. If old Ben was there, he would be like, wow, thousands of people just died. Even if they were Empire. But yeah, so they know that they're on the Falcon, and Han's like, this may be a time where I'm proven wrong. And Leia had said, she would like to be there at the time when he's proven wrong. Now she says, I take it back. And Han needs to find himself somewhere, so they end up going into this cave, and they go in there. And of course, the cave's not all that stable. Of course, they find out that the cave's not really a cave; it's a creature. And then they finally escape the creature that's trying to eat them, and then they end up coming back out, and there's the Empire there. So they're like, okay, now we still can't go to hyperspace. We got to figure out something. So Han decides he's gonna go into attack formation and attack the Star Destroyer, or appears to attack the Star Destroyer. And then this was a very interesting thing that I'm not sure how old I was when I picked this up, but they talk about the Falcon is too small to have cloaking technology. And as far as I remember, this is the only point in Star Wars that they mentioned cloaking technology, but cloaking technology, of course, was on Star Trek with the Klingons. Anyone have thoughts on that? Anyone? Bueller?
Cloaking Klingons, what? I think the cops are in front of my window.
I was just saying they mentioned that the Falcon is too small to have cloaking technology, but in the Star Wars lore, this is the first and I think the only time really that cloaking, until much later in the books, is mentioned in Star Wars. But of course, it's mentioned in Star Trek. So I thought that was interesting to point out.
That ties into my elementary school knowledge, because I used to read everything Star Wars I could get my hands on, and people had even made like technical manuals like explaining like the ships from like the expanded lore and the films.
Right.
And cloaking devices are a thing, but they, at the time of, in that time period, most of them were very clunky, and only like a big ship could accommodate them.
Right. I was thinking a small ship.
Some really advanced ships, like Darth Maul's Infiltrator, had a cloaking device, but it was like a unique piece of like secret technology in that case.
Right.
Okay, so the name of that creature that they flew into and flew out of was called an Exogorth.
A Raxavor?
and XO Gorth, EXO.
I'm gonna go get my book. I will be right back.
And the little flying creatures on the inside, those were called
Minox.
Yep.
I knew that.
But it's basically a space slug that they.
Yeah, it looks like a space slug.
I had the Micro Machines Millennium Falcon, and it came with like a little Minoc that would fit into one of the like compartments. It was actually a pretty good model of the Millennium Falcon. Like
I had the model.
It had like every feature from the movie that was like important.
All right, so they take that.
Anyway,
They appear with
attempt to show you guys this. So this is the inside cover of the book, where it has a size chart, and you can clearly see the space slug is the largest thing here, because it goes all the way to like the back of the book.
That's nice. That's cool.
Nice.
I've seen that before. Really cool.
Yeah, there it is. So I have trouble gauging where my camera actually starts.
Hey, bug, mother.
Yeah, this is. I think this book is only like $5 or $10 now.
Nice.
Definitely worth it. It is so much fun. It doesn't have any of the stuff from like Phantom Menace, which is disappointing. Because actually, maybe it does. Yeah, that was where the cutoff was. This came out around when the Phantom Menace came out, so it doesn't have the stuff from Attack of the Clones. But I'm gonna try to find the Space Slugs page in here real quick.
That's really neat.
Yep, here it is. And they even put the Minox on the same page.
That's cool.
Yeah, this book fucking rocks. There's a section on Dagobah too, which I think is just like a couple pages. Yep. Oh, here we go.
Nice.
Fantasy map of the Dagobah rainforest. Ooh.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if there are scans of this that people can look up. Because, man, this is so good. Science. Anyway, back to you.
So, they appear to disappear. Of course, they kind of floated away with the rest of the garbage. They realize they can go to where Lando is, and they go there. And, of course, they get there, and Lando seems to be really upset they showed up. Then he laughs and hugs his hand and welcomes them. Leia's not impressed with him. They end up seem to go into they lose 3PO at one point. They find him in pieces. Chewie decides he's going to put them back together. They go to a dinner where Darth Vader's there. Welcome them to dinner. So they realize it's a trap. Just like Akbar would say, it's a trap.
I always wondered if they actually just sat down and had like had that luncheon with Vader, you know.
That was a Robot Chicken sketch that they did very early on in the show. Just like an awkward silent dinner.
Right.
And Vader like just tries to break the silence. He's like, "Man, these rolls are pretty good, right? Have you ever had rolls like this, Princess?"
So you're
I had plenty of good rolls on Alderaan, and it's like, "Oh, Princess, let it go."
Dad, you blew up.
And like my favorite little moment in that, it's actually very hard to find. I have to kind of act it out. Like Han Solo makes like some sort of like stupid joke, and Boba Fett is sitting across the table, like right across from him, like he's just like, you just get this vibe like, I hate you. I just hate you so much. Like, you're disgusting. And Han Solo's like, and Boba Fett's like, and when Han Solo like tries to flip him off, and Boba Fett, they have like a little thing where they're just like flipping each other off in creative ways. Like Boba Fett's like, and Han Solo's like, ah. It's like the best like visual gag like I can ever remember. Just like Boba Fett, like.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. So they grab Han, and they're gonna give him over to the bounty hunter. You find out that they have they carbonize product and stuff for shipping, but they want to put Luke in it. Darth Vader wants to put Luke in it to deliver it to the Emperor, and Lando said that he'll probably die. He said, "Okay, we'll test it first on Solo," and of course, Boba Fett's like, "He's worth a lot to me alive," and they said, "You know, the Empire will compensate you." So, you know, I think Vader's a lot nicer to bounty hunters than he is to anyone else, but he recognizes that sometimes they need him. So, he doesn't kill bounty hunters too much, you know, just for that reason. But you know, Han Solo, of course, is tortured. They don't ask him any questions, but then they end up freeing him. And right before that, of course, Leia says, "I love you," and he says the famous line, "I know," which, just in case anyone doesn't know, originally Luke George had put in "I love you too," but he knew that he didn't want Harrison to say that. He just didn't know what to say, so they were getting close, but they're like, "Okay, we're not going to lunch until we figure this out." And so everyone's kind of annoyed, and all of a sudden, they go to the line, and Harrison Ford just goes, "I know," and George Lucas is like, "Wait, what? I know." He's like, "I like it. Let's put it in." I'm like, he's like, "I don't know if it'll stay, but let's put it in." And of course, as we know, it stayed, and it became a huge popular. It's hugely popular. It's memed everywhere. People say it all the time. You know, when you say "I know" when someone says "I love you," most people know what you're referring to, and it's huge. It's one of the biggest lines used in Empires, besides, you know, a later line. So
It's really interesting to see how people respond to it too.
what was that?
It's interesting to see how some people respond to it too, because some, like, I mostly watch a lot of like female reactors, because they tend to have very different interpretations of things than I do.
Right.
And there's like, it's like 50-50. Some of them are like, "Oh my god, I would die," and some of them are like, "No, say it back."
Yeah, no, yeah. They're like, "That's rude. Why wouldn't he say it back?" You know, like, yeah.
Well, it reflects the character very well, because the character
It does.
is arrogant, and it really just kind of reflects who he is as a person.
And now she's arrogant too, but
She's stubborn.
yeah, she knew he was going, and if she ever had a chance to say anything, it's now. So it opened it up for him to not be the vulnerable one, because she became the vulnerable one. So it wouldn't make sense for them both to be vulnerable. She already did, you know. So, but later we bring it back full circle in Return of the Jedi, and we'll get to that next week. But yeah, so we get that scene, and of course he gets frozen, and we know he lived. He's frozen, and they reset it for Luke. Luke, of course, was training on Dagobah with Yoda. Yoda doesn't want him to leave. Obi-Wan kind of begs him not to go, that, you know, he's on his own if he does.
Plus,
Everything.
he shows him like his greatest fear.
Oh,
I
yeah.
do like this moment.
Yeah, that was a great scene where he goes into this cave, and he's like, "What do I see in there? Only what you bring in with him." And he brings his weapon, which, you know, Yoda says you won't need it. But he ends up facing Darth Vader, and he fights Darth Vader, and he chops Darth Vader's head off. Only you see Luke's face, and of course Luke is just like, "What the hell does this mean?" Everyone's like, "What the hell does this mean?" And everyone's kind of confused, but and just kind of, you know, he's just like, and of course Yoda has the great line of, you know, "Are you afraid?" No, he's like, "You will be, you will be." And yeah, so it's definitely, he fails there, and Luke has quite a few failures.
I thought
on
Yoda sounded
Dagobah.
quite. I thought Yoda sounded quite menacing there. I was just like, yo, what that you will be, you know.
Yeah, it was kind of menacing the way he said it too. It's kind of scary a little bit. Yeah. So Luke, of course, he tries to lift his X-wing, and it's impossible. You know, it's too big, and Yoda's like, you know, judge things by its size. You judge me by my size, and basically Yoda ends up saying, "Okay, pupil, here you go," and he lifts the X-wing up. And brings it aboard, and Luke's like, "I don't believe it," and Yoda's like, "That's why you failed." And they go through more training, and then of course he sees the future, sees that everyone's in trouble, and he finds out it's because of him, and that makes him just want to go more. So he takes off. He shows up on Cloud City. They try to warn Luke that it's a trap. When Leia sees Luke, it's a trap, and Luke still doesn't really listen. He gets captured. Then he has the fight scene with Vader. Vader gets him into the carbonite part. He goes, "That was easy. Maybe you're not as strong as the Emperor perceived." Luke jumps out of it. And they continue their fight. Great epic scene. I love this fight. Then towards the end of it, Luke's hanging on. His hand just got chopped off, and Vader's like, Obi-Wan never told you what happened to your father, and Luke's like, he told me you betrayed and murdered him, and Vader's like, no, I'm your father. And there's a lot of people say the line is, no, Luke, I am your father, but as incorrect. He just says, no, I'm your father, and that is the correct way of saying it. And immediately Luke's like, no, that's not true. And again, he says it's impossible. That's one of his favorite lines, I guess. And Vader goes on to say, search your feelings, to be true. He basically wants Luke to join him to overthrow the Emperor, because that's the way the Sith work. There's going to only be two. So either the apprentice or the master has got to die at some point. And of course Luke's like, no, I'll never join you. He falls off the tower there. Even he doesn't even know he's gonna survive. He just knows he's not gonna let Vader turn him. And of course he does survive. He slides down all the way and onto this antenna, and he falls onto. He catches himself with his legs. And Han and Lando are now escaping in the Falcon, and he calls out to Leia, and Leia's like, Luke's alive, we need to go back to him. And of course Lando's not happy.
Well, one of the things I wanted to say is that he was mad at Ben. He was like, Ben, why didn't you tell me, through this whole ordeal with Vader? Why didn't you tell me over and over? Like he was angry at Ben for not, like, telling him ahead of time.
Which I could understand. Yeah. Anybody else have any thoughts on anything that's happened so far?
It all depends upon your point of view. I remember that the most from the film from Jedi afterwards. But I did want to say that I noticed that in this movie, all the times that Luke is in a fight, he is the one who draws first.
Yes, which is not Jedi-like.
Yeah, so he, I can't remember Jedi, but I'll find that out by next week. But I'm hoping he improves on that. But the idea is
I don't think he did. I don't think he did. Well, except for the end when Palpatine's like, yes, good, strike me down. He throws his lightsaber down. He finally realizes he's a Jedi. And that's when he says it, too. He goes, no, I'm a Jedi like my father before me. And, Palpatine's just like, oh, okay, then die, Jedi. But, that's the next move next week. Also, I've seen that a couple times too, folks. Tammy, any thoughts on anything that's happened with any thoughts on the I Love You and I Know? What did you think about that? Were you a fan of that or not a fan?
I don't know. I don't really think she loved him.
You don't think she loved him? You think she was just saying it?
No, I don't really think she loved him yet. I mean,
that's a different take.
No, I think they had feelings for each other, but I really don't think there was love there yet at that time, because she was kissing on Luke too.
She was making him jealous. She was making Han jealous completely. That was the only reason she kissed Luke, because Luke was there. It could have been any other guy she would have kissed to make Han jealous, because she did have feelings, and she didn't want to admit that she had feelings, so she wanted to prove him wrong. And it just happened to be Luke, which, so.
Well,
I
it's
think
like,
she had feelings. Yeah, I think they both had feelings. I don't necessarily think it was love.
I
How
would
can you
agree. I
siblings
think the word love slipped out at that moment.
Yeah, I think she did love him, and she realized this might be the last time she had a chance to say something, and she told him. No, I thought it was super romantic. That's my thoughts. Anyone else? Dustin, Dave, any thoughts on it? Brandon?
I wasn't quite sure that she was, in fact, in love with him at that moment. I do think that they were thrown situations, a situation where it could be a long time before she sees him again, kind of a moment, and
Oh, she thought he was probably gonna die. So yeah.
well, she had fond feelings for him.
Yep. Hello.
I don't know.
You what?
Dave, we lost you, Dave. Ground control to goal leader Dave. All right. Well, we'll get back to Dave when he gets back. Dustin, you have anything to say on that scene?
What the
I love you, and I know, or any other scene?
Well, I mean, I like that scene more again now that I'm older. As we lose Dave. Oh man, maybe their internet went out. Anyway, I like that scene more now that I'm older. But when I was like younger, I was just kind of like, yeah, get back to the action. Realizing like why people around me were like, wow, what a scene. Like, what do you mean? And then I was older, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
It's just sort of a funny thing, seeing a film multiple times, like throughout your life, like as you progress through different life stages. So I guess there's just a bit of commentary on that. And then if we're talking like the Luke and Vader fight, like that's a great battle because like you can tell Darth Vader is kind of taking it easy on Luke until about the midway point when Luke is actually kind of holding his own. Like he's not going to win this, but he's not going to die right away the way most people who have tried to fight Vader do.
Yeah.
And he even gets a shot in on Vader before he loses his hand, too. Like, Vader is like taken by surprise when he gets that, like, slash on his shoulder.
Yeah, I think that was that was also one of the things I noticed that in the fight. You could tell that Vader was kind of Vader was the one fighting defensively and just kind of holding back.
He was fighting more like the Jedi, but he finally learned his lesson from Obi-Wan. Well, in the prequels, he kept always telling him, be mindful of your surroundings, and Jedi should never attack first, even though he's not even a Jedi anymore. He just seemed to take that stance, and Luke was the one that was acting like the Sith.
I don't think Vader was taking that. Like, I don't think he was acting according to Obi-Wan's instruction. I think it was he didn't want to kill Luke without having every opportunity to convince him to join him. He would have basically, the whatever loyalty he had to the Emperor, this was his son. He wanted to see if he could maybe win him over, and he would have made that trade in a heartbeat if he could. So that's why he's taking it easy. And I will go ahead and say what I said before about Luke being less whiny in this one. I do rescind that comment for that one famous moment where he is like, "That's not true. It's impossible. It's like,
Dude, I mean, he just found out that Darth Vader's his dad. He was the evilest man in the world.
I
mean,
know,
come
but
on.
it's like it becomes the poster child for every whiny, I don't want to accept my fate protagonist in any show
Where do you
ever.
think they have honor from?
Yeah, it's kind of it's a pretty cool scene up until that point, but I'm kind of annoyed in that moment with it. Yeah, I mean it's understandable, but it's still annoying.
Yeah, I don't feel the same on that one, but yeah, I get your point, but
It does make him look like a snot-nosed kid.
God knows, kid. He just told you people. Not to say anymore, just you people.
Yeah, but I don't know. I wouldn't react as like that if I found out my father was a serial killer.
And think about it. You're in your early 20s. Not now. You're in your early 20s. You just fought this man. He's the evilest man in the world. He's the whole reason your uncle and aunt are dead. Your father's dead, so you believe. Maybe your mother, like the root of your entire life. This man is in, behind it, and then you find out that he's really your dad. Tell me how your reaction really would be. You wouldn't just say, "Oh, okay."
I really don't know until the moment happens.
Exactly, and maybe you wouldn't be whiny, but maybe you would have, especially in your early 20s when that's how Luke was. So I don't know, because everyone's entitled to their opinion, but I'm gonna debate it if it doesn't agree with mine. So sorry, that's the way it goes.
I just think it's a little over the top. That's all, just a little bit.
And again, when this movie was made,
that the over the topness was needed for this movie. So
again, when this movie was made, over the top was still a style that was still kind of in, not as in as it had been early in the 50s and 60s and so on, but it was still kind of in. So you got to take that into consideration too. Is the timing when the movie was made.
And it was a fun movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Oh, that moment where he says, "Get to the chopper! Get to the chopper!"
So we're pretty much at the end of the movie. Luke is saved by Leia, and we get the awesome ending scene where they're got their arms around each other. They're just looking out at the space, everything, and it ends there. So I guess if anyone doesn't have any more thoughts on the movie itself, we can move on to production. We'll go ahead and we'll start with you, Dustin. What were your thoughts on production?
Well, everything in this movie looks fantastic. I mean, I know they edited a few things to make them a bit more believable. Like when I got the special edition VHS tapes, there was a little 5-minute thing before the movies.
Yep.
With explaining some of the things that they changed. And one thing that I was like, I don't understand, because I was like a little kid, was apparently some of the matte lines were really visible for the cockpits of the speeders. And they cleaned that up so that it looks like they're not looking out of the vehicle onto a screen. It looks like they're actually there.
Yeah, I agree. Is that it for your thoughts on it?
I think I maybe like the old Wampa scene a little bit better.
Right.
Now that I really kind of dig deep, because in that version of it, it's just the creature kind of skulking off the camera. It's hard to describe, I guess, but it's you don't really see the monster. Whereas here, you see the Wampa in full view, and it walks up to the camera. It's kind of the difference between like the Patterson footage of like Bigfoot and like Harry and the Hendersons.
Don't forget the Rudolph's
The Rudolph the Red-Nosed
abominable snowman. Okay, Dave, what are your thoughts on the film?
I thought the production was pretty darn good. I mean, this time around, I enjoy the I think that the effects on the starships and the fighters are sharper. I think there are more TIE fighters involved
The special edition.
in the special edition. I think there was added scenery to, because I remember with the Emperor, when you see the Emperor, I remember it was just a face-on thing. There was no side views or side glances. It was just a straight, okay, this is the Emperor, and this is what he said.
Kind of like the Oz and the Wizard of Oz, when you saw his like big head, and that's all you saw was a big head and some flames. So it was kind of like that.
Correct. I mean, I do remember seeing Vader from the side a little bit, but I don't remember it being as sharp or anything like that. So, as far as sharpness, I do like the fact that everything is more sharper and clear than it was in the original. I don't know. I do like the original scenes, at least of the creature myself. I kind of like the not knowing what he did with his arm, and it did seem a little bit more brutal in the original. Now it seems a little bit more cleaner. So. But I do enjoy the special effects, and I do think that Star Wars, it never gets old. So I enjoy the film for the most part.
That's awesome. Tammy, what are your thoughts on it?
I thought the production was decent. With the fighting, when there wasn't as much of the fighting between the starships in this one, but
yeah,
what there was cool. I liked it when they realized that they were in that creature. That was kind of neat. I thought that was well done, because you had no idea until they figured it out that they were inside this thing. They go to leave and you see the teeth just like they did. It was like, whoa, okay. So I thought that was done really cool. And of course, I like R2 and Yoda, and all the different things that were not people. So I think they did good with all that. So I thought it was good.
awesome. And Jacob, what are your thoughts?
Jake, you're
Hey,
muted.
where are you?
What's
Ground
up?
control a bit, Jake.
Wow.
Okay, you guys cut out there. That's why I wasn't sure. You're asking production?
Yep.
Well, I mean, like I said before, it's not bad. definitely impressive for the time. I don't mean to knock it in any way. It is very impressive for the time. Watching it on Blu-ray, you do see some of the seams, you might say, but it's still
Blu-rays
good. Yeah,
because of the additional changes.
yeah. And like I said, the more I watch these, as rough around the edges as the original trilogy is, I very much prefer it to the overly CG of the prequel series. I think they hit a better balance with the newer ones, but this prequel series, they went way too hard on the computer graphics. I like the more rough around the edges look of the older series.
Okay. What about you, Kroll? What did you think about the production?
Well, I was gonna do me last, so why don't we do Brandon next, and then we'll go ahead and I'll say
Oh,
mine.
Brandon's gone. He had to sign out.
I thought he said 12. Oh, he said 11. Yeah, it's only he had enough time to say it. It's 8 minutes left. What's wrong with people? All right. Well, I thought the production was especially for its time was awesome, but even to now, the original, uncut, unspecialized versions, I think still stand up. I mean, I don't know. I just think it was great. There was no moment of that droid like I had in A New Hope. As much as I love A New Hope, you know that interrogator droid was just kind of like annoying to me. Never was scary and just kind of laughable. They never really had any moments like that in Empire. It was well done. Even like I said before, the super polished version. So I just absolutely loved it, and it was amazing. So yeah, that's my thoughts on it. Let's go ahead and move on to music, and we'll go back to Tammy. What are your thoughts on music?
Well, music was okay. It worked for it. I mean, you definitely knew when Darth Vader was coming. They play the same music every time he shows up. You know he's coming.
It's called the Imperial March. All right,
So,
and
otherwise, yeah, I thought the music was fine.
alrighty, and your thoughts, Jacob?
Well, like I said before, I think it's a fairly iconic score for this one. I have said before many times how much it's bullshit that John Williams kept getting credited with original scores for each Star Wars film. But of all the new pieces he added, the Imperial March is definitely the most memorable and iconic since the original score. And overall, I probably would put this as my favorite of the lot for the score. And I think it's very well used in the film. So, yeah, that's about it.
Alrighty, and Dave, you?
I enjoy the Imperial March. I do know people who use the Imperial March for their mother-in-laws and wives and shit like that, or have. And do think that the music is iconic. I mean, the Star Wars theme is throughout the series is iconic too, but I think the Imperial March comes like close at hand behind that, and is almost just as well known, you know. So
Some
um,
circles might be more well known.
I do enjoy the piece or pieces that were placed in this film, and I do I do think that the music was well enough to have in my collection at one point in time. So, yeah. So, not a whole lot that I can say that's bad about the music. So,
Yeah. And Dustin, what are your thoughts on the music?
I mean, it's the Star Wars music. I mean, what can you say about it other than it's like perfectly engineered for each scene, and stands as a work on its own. I have seen a lot of kind of lame covers of the Imperial March though, or like variants of it. It's often like a school band kind of thing. It's like, man, look how good this is, and it's like, yes, it's good, but you don't play it as good, and it kind of cheapens it. Wow, that sounds really mean. Holy shit. I'm a bad person, sorry.
okay.
Awesome. And my thoughts are, yeah, I pretty much agree with what Dustin said. I mean, every scene was perfect. The opening scene always get the Star Wars theme music, and then of course the Imperial March. Are I've seen it and it's been used everywhere for everything, and I still love it. I've used it myself in different things, and in like Second Life when I played that. When I walked, it would play the Imperial music and stuff. So it was pretty damn awesome, and John Williams definitely deserves any awards there is for original scores and everything. So he definitely, I mean, he's a master. Like I said, I put him up there with all the great classical people of the past. But he's still around. And he's still doing music, and he's still doing Star Wars music. So that's at least one constant we'll always get in the Star Wars universe is John Williams' music. He's incredible. So let's go ahead and move on to favorite
Well, he is
scenes.
getting up there in years, so he might not have any more full scores left in him. But
Maybe not, but we'll see. Um, we're gonna go ahead and go on to favorite scenes and favorite characters, and we'll flip to the other side, and we'll start with you, Dustin, on this one. And go ahead.
What am I doing?
Yeah, your favorite scenes and characters.
What don't I like? Damn. You know what? I'm gonna be crazy here. I want to say my favorite character is Admiral Piet, who just kind of has the stuff happen to him. Superiors mess up, and he keeps getting promoted.
Right.
And it's so one of the Star Wars things I used to have was one of those like figure, and it was like a 12-inch figure and a book about the character. And I had the Darth Vader one. The figure was the version of him before they added Hayden Christensen at the end of Return of the Jedi. And a lot of the book was both how his character was designed, and it was also like a very brief like summary of the trilogy, like from Vader's perspective in the scenes he was in.
Right.
And it kind of pays attention to Admiral Piet in that Captain whatever changing rank Piet in that book. Because it starts with, Admiral Piet notices like the pro-dread data first, and his superior is like, oh, well, that's nothing. And it's like, are you sure? Because there's not supposed to be people there. And then Darth Vader is impressed by that, and he's like, you found something? It's like, yeah. And it's like, you did it. And, that's why he gets the promotion in the first place, because Vader is like, okay, you're competent, good. And just that running gag of, I think Vader kills at least 2, I think 3 people, and just keeps promoting Admiral Piet. And then, like, at the end, when the Falcon does, like, finally hyperspace jump, like, Captain Piet's just like, like, watching it fly away. But Darth Vader is in kind of like a contemplative mood, and he just kind of looks at Piet, who's like, and he's just like, nah. And he
walks away.
And Piet's like, oh.
Yeah, Piet somehow survives Vader's rampage. One of the few people, one of the few who we have.
And as for scenes, I mean, I like all the scenes really. Like, there's nothing that I don't think is not like interesting or exciting. I mean, I think I maybe like meeting Yoda less because it's, I don't know, it's so many people's like favorite thing to the point where it's kind of like I'm tired of it. Does that make sense? Like, I think there are
Yeah.
more interesting scenes, but I mean, otherwise, all of it, like, I love. Just, it's great. I can't pick a favorite.
Okay.
No, okay, maybe if I did have to pick a favorite, it's reuniting with Lando. Like, you're like, oh, and he's like, that was a long time ago. I'm sure he's forgotten about all that. And he's like, you son of a bitch. And he just kind of like points to himself like,
You got a nerve coming here.
and some people miss that Han Solo like kind of puts up his fists when Lando comes at him because he's like, oh shit.
Yeah, yeah, because he's like, oh wait, is he not? It's just, I mean, if you look at Lando's demeanor, he completely looks like he's really mad at him, and he's gonna attack him, and then he flips it around, and and Han kind of has the half crooked smile, still kind of a little cautious because
Like, what's going on?
Yeah. All right, that was awesome. All right, moving over to you, Dave. Favorite scene, favorite characters.
Oh God. Favorite character. I would have to say my favorite characters in here were in between R2-D2 and Han Solo. Basically for the fact that even though I had discrepancies with their romance a little bit. I did enjoy, the whole fact that he really did think highly of his friend Lando, and when he got there, well, he kind of betrayed him.
Well, you have a choice, like you said, and I believe that.
But R2-D2, he screamed several times through here, which kind of made me fall in love with his ass. So, at least as a droid. But R2-D2 is like my favorite droid throughout the entire series. And he's also iconic. So, but favorite scenes. I don't know. I enjoy the space slug scene. I do enjoy the Dagobah system and Yoda just a little bit. Even though in here he sounds like Fozzie Bear to me, very much so. And whereas in the other films, he doesn't quite sound like Fozzie Bear. He's like got his own like voice or whatnot. But I also enjoy the fight between Vader and Luke as well. I mean, it's so historical. I seem to remember a movie called Reign of Fire, where
That was a good movie.
Matthew McConaughey was describing the fight between Vader and Luke to like this these kids that were survivors after like this whole big thing happened with the dragon. So yeah, it's something that has transcended Star Wars into other films, and I think it's just as iconic, So, and the reveal that he was, Luke's father, that was always a big thing. And even a bigger thing later with Luke's sister. So, but that being said, those are some of my favorite moments. I do enjoy the Wampa, attack, but it's cool. But I think that's those are my favorites.
Awesome. And Jake?
I would probably have to go. I'd probably have to go with Yoda as a favorite character. I mean, it's. Although I do kind of appreciate Dustin's point about Piet. And this is one where Vader starts to come into his own as a more interesting villain, I think, than he necessarily was in the first one. As far as scenes, there's a bunch of really good scenes scattered throughout this. Some iconic scenes. The scene where he says, "I am your father," is, of course, an iconic scene, and it's hard not to put that near the top.
Don't forget the lines too.
What's that?
Don't forget the lines too, as being like heavily full of iconic, moments. Like one thing I should have mentioned earlier that I kind of forgotten about was like our introduction to Boba Fett and the other bounty hunters. Like how Darth Vader like gets in his face and points and makes like a really big point. No disintegrations, as you wish.
Right.
Like it really tells you that there's like a history there.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could say that. I'm trying to think if there. Oh, sorry. I'm trying to think if there's another scene I really want to cite that particularly. I don't think anything really. Some of the scenes with Yoda, some of the training scenes, I can't remember how much of this. Someone said earlier they put more jokes in, so I don't know how much of this was from the original cut and how much was added. But the way that Yoda basically is just kind of screwing with Luke for a while is just hilarious. I love it. And yeah, those are probably the main things I would mention for this one. Like I said, there's a lot of great moments, so it's kind of the movie overall for me. It is the middle chapter, and it kind of feels like you pick up the story in the middle and it kind of ends without really ending. So it almost really is just a second act. It's not, even though it's probably my favorite of the Star Wars films, and it's probably one of the best of the Star Wars films, it also on its own is not really a complete film. It really does not exist without the ones that come before and after. So that's one of the reasons I've always been a little tempered on this one as well, but still a solid one.
Awesome. And Tammy, your favorite scene, favorite characters?
Well, Chewie is still one of my favorites, but I do like R2. I like as David put his little screams. They just make me laugh every time. And then every time I laugh, David sits there and goes, "Oh, you like it when he does that?"
Oh, I get a kick out of looking over at her whenever he screams, and she's just got a big ass grin on her face.
But,
It is pretty cool.
As far as scenes go, I think I have to agree with Jake. I really do like some of the comedy and stuff of Yoda and Luke. That that was he was just toying with him big time. Um, and of course, I already mentioned I like it when they realize that they are inside that space monster, whatever it is, because I think how they did that was actually really good because like we realized it like at the same time they realized it that they were in this thing. It's not like you had any idea beforehand, really, you know. So I think the scene itself was like really cool. You know, I guess I know it maybe sounds kind of morbid, but the way Han looks when he gets frozen, it's kind of morbid and kind of creepy, but it's kind of like wow, he's frozen just like that, but yet he's alive,
Oh, it's awesome.
There's some moments from some of like books and comics that kind of expands on like how he looks kind of frozen in the carbonite. Like characters comment on it. Like when in the scene, and I think it's either the Shadows of the Empire book or like Tales of the Bounty Hunters. There's the scene where Boba Fett drops Han Solo and Carbonite off with Jabba, and Jabba tries to kind of lowball him a little bit. And he's like, well, I mean, this here isn't exactly Han Solo. And Jabba's like, you saying this isn't Solo? It's like, well, it's using Solo as like an artist would use clay for a piece of art by the Dark Lord himself. And Jabba's kind of staring at me. He's like, the grimace is quite wonderful. Like he says that 2 or 3 times before agreeing to a much higher price.
I do want to mention to Lando during that carbonite scene. He's watching. I watched at this time watching Lando's face while he's watching Leia. You can tell that he's affected by Leia's emotions that she's showing as he gets frozen, and I think that's kind of why he, did what he did. Is he'd kind of gotten to know Leia and liked her, and wanted to help her out, and I think that's why he wanted to have her and Chewbacca, free. So I did want to say something to the fact that I noticed that he noticed her emotions. So that being said.
Alrighty. All right. So my favorite scene I think now used to be the fight between Vader and Luke, and although I still love the scene where he reveals that he's Luke's father and Luke's reaction. I just love it. That's my favorite scene. It's just so now being an adult, I see the full levity of what it meant and everything, and how Luke must have felt and everything, all the emotions going through both people at the moment. I mean, Vader's like, yeah, I'm an evil son of a bitch, but I'm trying to reach out to my kid, and and of course he's rejected because he's an evil son of a bitch, but still, it's I don't know, it's just that scene is just so awesome to me. It's really my favorite scene now. But I mean, everything on Dagobah is about I still get a kick out of Yoda acting like a little kid, being annoying on purpose. It's funny how R2's trying to zap him and he's like hitting R2 with a stick and stuff. It's hilarious, and of course the scene with Luke going in and fighting Vader and his face and all the training was great, and then Yoda pulling the Falcon out and all it was all freaking awesome. And the beginning of it, it was great on Hoth and the Wampa and everything. The Tauntaun. The whole movie is awesome. Obviously, I love Star Wars. I love all of them. But those are my favorite scenes. And this time, Luke came back to the top. Luke's my favorite character, and then Yoda is next. And still love Han. Still love him. Just he's not in the top two. And of course, love Leia. She's not really an ungrateful bitch in this one, and Luke isn't a whiny little bitch this time either. So that's good. They both improved a lot. Leia is much more likable now. I always liked her, but just the last time I saw her, I just kind of saw a different side. So, that's my thoughts on them. So, if we don't have anything else to say about Star Wars Empire Strikes Back, next week we'll be doing Return of the Jedi. I'll be hosting again. And, but we are done with this episode, I guess, if nobody has anything else to add. All right, Dave, take it away.
Alrighty. Let's tell the audience a little bit about who we are. So let's start with you, Dustin. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Well, also sorry if the screaming is still in the background, despite 4 calls to the police and seeing them come by and look at the person, and then just
2 hours
drive away. They're still out there screaming. So if you still hear that, sorry. Anyway, I collect horror movie stuff here in Milwaukee. I have a YouTube channel that I've been neglecting because of I basically have a cataclysm of some kind every week that takes up all my time. So I had emergency surgery last week. But anyway, so with that in mind, go subscribe to The Crypt of Horrors here on YouTube, where I'm working on both changing my name to Cryptaxis because it's easier and getting new content out for you. So with that, my Instagram is also where I post my horror stuff more frequently. That's also The Crypt of Horrors. I'm on Twitter as Cryptaxis, where you can talk to me directly if you feel so inclined. And I'm on Letterboxd as Cryptaxis, where I've been doing at least 1 movie a day, every day, all year. And it's going pretty good. Right now, I'm on the Heisei Godzilla series, and they rock. They're so much better than I remembered. Wow. Actually, it's coming to an end, because I'm already on Godzilla vs. Destroya.
There are some where Godzilla just gets so animated and does somersaults in the air, and it's fucking hilarious.
That's the Showa series. This is the Heisei. This is the 90s Godzilla.
Gotcha.
Where he was almost kind of grimdark in a lot of ways. There's a lot of spraying blood in these. But they're so good. So I saw Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla 2 and versus Space Godzilla yesterday, and they were just awesome. So go check those out. Go check me out. And I have to go. Bye.
Okay.
All right. Let's hear out there. Who's next, Dave?
Let's go with you, Jake. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
All right. I'm Kotobukijake. I'm the co-host on occasion. He's kind of on hiatus right now, but I'm the co-host of YouTube channel SeptumSin versus the World. We have a couple long-term projects we're working on, and we will be on this week for a discussion of To Love Ru, which will be very fun. I just keep busy most of the time. I have a full-time job that pays the bills, but I also am the co-founder of RV Homegrown Natives, which is a native plant nursery. We have had a busy spring, and now we're kind of shifting gears into getting ready for the fall, actually. Summer and fall and all that stuff. It's going to be pretty interesting. But I still make time to, watch some stuff each week and join these fine folks for a discussion on on something or other, and glad to get a chance to look at Empire Strikes Back. I'm frankly astonished. This one went by so much faster than the other one did, but that's probably just as well. We got a lot that we'll probably be talking about next week as well. And
Well, we have the new format, so I think it works out. We all get to say our thoughts, and we get it doesn't go on as long.
right. And so definitely I lost my train of thought. I'm sorry.
Sorry about that.
That's just about it. Definitely may the force be with you.
Heading over to you, Kroll. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Well, I'm Ron, aka Kroll. I have my own YouTube channel now, and that is going good. I enjoy it. It's Kroll's World of Tech on YouTube, and I'm sorry, Kroll's World of Solutions. Sorry, I said the wrong thing. I have a blog named of Tech. I have a couple of vlogs out there too. Mostly for now, it's me getting to know me, and then about some there's some business things, business opportunities, or some of the things I market. And I would like to add some inspirational, motivational speeches and stuff on there. I just as soon as I can get a chance to do some research to see about doing that, I will add those on there. So if people are into that, they can check it out. And if you're not, check it out anyway. Especially Jim Rohn, he's amazing. But anyways, I'm a nerd. I love video games. I love movies. I love TV shows, reading. I haven't really done a lot of it except for reading and researching for my business. Just kind of taking a break from my hobbies, except for this and watching a movie for the podcast. I'll go back to them, and my job will become very part-time. Just right now, I want it to get up and going. So I don't know if anyone ever started a business. It takes a lot to get one going, and I just started like mid-January. So I'm just pushing everything I have into it, and I have resources and people to talk to and help with certain things, but I'm still doing it myself. So there's a lot, no employees or anything else or partners. So there's still a lot to do, but I have gotten a lot of help with resources and things like that. So that's basically me right now. And I love this podcast and the one to come on Sunday, and I'm on other podcasts here and there as well. So check me out.
Alrighty. Heading over to you, Tammy. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Well, I'm David's fiance, and I go on this channel and another one to talk about movies and listen to everybody else's opinions and what they think and everything. And I've watched several movies that I probably never would have before, and which has been kind of interesting. And I have my own collections, and now that it's summertime, I've been taking out my 1972 Grand Prix. First show was the other day, and that was lots of fun.
Alrighty. And my name is David Struggy. I'm one of the founding fathers of Inside Movies Galore. So thank you for coming along with us on this fantabulous journey through this gigantua space opera that we call Star Wars. As we will definitely next week go into the third act of the series, at least, even though it's technically the sixth. We knew it as the third.
Well, yeah, it's Return of the Jedi episode 6, but it's the third movie.
Yeah.
Any Star Wars fan will know.
Looking forward to checking out Return of the Jedi next week. So those of you who have followed along, please come back and let us know your what you think. And we'll let you know more details on future episodes. But I also moonlight under a different channel called Delusions of Grandeur, where we also podcast similarly, where I believe we are taking a break this Sunday and then coming back the following. And hopefully we'll be able to tell you the name of that movie.
And we'll be watching some movie probably with subtitles because that's what Philip likes.
I guess we'll have to see. But I also do some video pickups and some video reviews from time to time on the channel. So let me know what you think. And hopefully you can like, share, and subscribe. And we'll be back next week with a blast, or should I say a blaster.
I think blast or blaster works in Star Wars. Ships blast off and things get blown up and all kinds of blasts and blasters in Star Wars.
On that note, everyone say, may the Force be with you.
I'm sorry, I cannot say that. May the sports be with you.